Hello, we're in England today. We're doing some more of these antiques on our website. Now this one is a Japanese plate, and I'll give you some tips on what to look for with these plates. Now, if you compare the saleability of a plate to a vase, collectors are always going to want to buy a vase, but there is an increasing market for plates in the absence of a sufficient supply of good vases. There is a tendency to hang these plates on the wall, and there is a profusion of plates with these wire hangers, which are necessary. Unfortunately, you don't want to use a self-adhesive hanger on these. They need to be hung something durable. So the reason the plates are not so popular as vases is because vases are something that can be viewed from the side very easily. It's hard to display a plate. You can have the wooden stands, you can have the wire racks, but there's a certain domestic wear value, domestic wear aspect to plates or chargers. So they're still good value to buy. And you get a big piece of pottery, which is beautiful to look at. And I think that the aversion to plates is diminishing very fast. So very, very hard to date these plates. They're making plates like this now. They've been making plates like this for 200-300 years. The same colourways, the same techniques, the same sort of firing. So you have to be careful. In basic terms, the finer the plate, the more likely it is to be older. But that is a generality. I mean, they are making very fine modern ones. So that is just a comment. The larger the plate often means they're older, often. There are a lot of Imari plates which are dinner plate size, like just domestic plates, and they're quite crude and numerous, and by nature of it, they tend to be later. So when you're buying these plates for gold, now the gold has to be very well applied. You're not looking for splashes of gold and slatherings of gold. Gold was used carefully because it was expensive, and it was applied in great care as outlines or as infill. And you'll see on this plate there is infill and outlines in gold, and it's carefully applied, and that will be real gold. There is something called white Imari, which is blue and white. This is normal Imari, regular Imari with the reds and greens. So listen for the sound. It needs to chime like a bell. If it doesn't do that, it has got a crack. As a matter of fact, when I bought the plate, it had a wire rack on it. They often do. You don't really know until you get it off if it's got any damage. It's very hard to smooth them around and see if they're okay, because they're very tightly put on usually. So take it off with great care, because you can flake them, chip them as these come off. But if we're selling a plate, we want to be able to say it's okay. We don't want to say, oh, it could be okay. We're not going to put that back on. We will put it with the plate. And if the next owner wants to put it back on, they can take the chance themselves. But I would be careful. I would not recommend it. I would not recommend hanging on these plates on a piece of string, which can decay. They do decay and just break, so I would be very careful about using that. Now, we've talked about the design, we've talked about the glazing, the patterns, the colours, the ring. Now the back is very difficult. There are comparisons with Japanese and Chinese ceramics, and you have to use all your senses to work out whether it's old or not. I would say this plate is going to be between 1890 and 1910. They would call that Meiji period, which means in English, which basically means Victorian. And it would have been painted for a tourist or to be shipped over to England. Export wear, they call it. And it's good export wear. That's bigger than a dinner plate. It is a charger. And it would have been in a shop in London. It would have been a lot of money. Or it could have been bought in Japan. But I think more likely to be shipped to England and then sold in the store. Right, this rim needs inspection. Sometimes they're very, very crusty, which is okay. They used to put them on the kiln, and the wet clay would stick to bits and pieces. But be aware they can fake that, and they will apply bits sometimes to make it look like it's been in a kiln, of that nature. or even on a modern one, sometimes they apply dirt in the glaze to make it look old. If there's a wash of brown glaze and it doesn't come off, it's in the glaze, it's been put in. So there's some giveaways. This has a seal, impressed seal. I don't know what it says. You obviously don't want it to say made in Japan. So there are some basic things to look for. This is a shipping label. You see this on Japanese furniture, you see it on Japanese pictures, Porcelain, all sorts of things. That's why I think it's come through a dealer to a store. It's been made on a wheel, not on a pot, and you can see on the back finger marks, concentric rings. That's not something you can easily fake, though in some vases you see it on the insides now, but this is not faked. This has been made on a wheel. Some little flecks, which are imperfections in the glaze, which are part of the characteristics of a plate like this. Some of the very best ones have seals, some of the very best ones don't have seals. Unfortunately, that's the way the market is, and that's the basis of this type of pottery. You have a blue ring they put in there, another one here, would have been put on a wheel and spun. They would have just let the wheel do the work and painted it on as it spun. These are hand painted. The whole thing is hand painted. Now, you do see later transition to transfer, and sometimes modern ones, not always, but sometimes modern ones are 100% transfer, with perhaps the gold painted out, but sometimes you'll even see sections in transfer, where they'll put the detail on in transfer, then fill in the detail and colour, and do some of the big shapes in freehand. But I think this plate here has no transfer at all, and that's really quite important. If you study the painting, you don't want all the leaves to have the same veins on. They need to be different. If they have elements which are the same, then they've used transfer, and you can take the value down. So I hope I've given you some tips. There's really no substitute from handling them. You have to pick them up and feel them. Particularly with Chinese pottery, there was something called lemon peel feel, where you want it to be lumpy, like a lemon skin. And if it's too smooth, it's not quite right. So please take the chance to go to the sale rooms and the shops, look at these items, handle them, pick them up, tap them, inspect them. Great, much time as you can give them, and when you've seen a lot of them, you start to build up a feel for what you're looking for. I mean, even things like the shine, you've got to look at the shine. You can see, I can see individual petals put on. You can see where the paint is globulized and set. You can sort of piece together how hard it was to make, how much time I spent on it, whether it be a plate or a vase. So anyway, I hope that's been interesting. Thanks very much. This is in England for collection only.